Okay, so the muscles we're doing for the upper body is this left-hand side of the study sheet, and these will be the lower body ones. So I'm just going to work down. Luckily, they're sort of categorized into little regional groups, and that helps because then you've got a certain group you can remember and then another group. So we'll start at the top and go down. So the sternocleidomastoid is this muscle here. It's this muscle here, and you can kind of feel some of the tendon, especially the part that attaches to the sternum right here. So it got its name because it attaches to the sternum, and the cleidoid part is the clavicle. Here it is. And so it has another little part that attaches down on here, and a tendon right on here. And then mastoid is the mastoid process up here. And so this is going to be the origin. This is going to be the insertion. So if I use both of them, a muscle at the front of the neck attaching down to the front would be likely to pull my neck this way. I'm going to look for a muscle in the back of the neck to pull my neck this way. So, but what about the one that asks for turning the head to the side? Well, the sternocleidomastoid is still the muscle that's going to be used, but you're only going to use one. And then the question is which one? So if you feel you've only got one hand because of having your phone there, you can kind of feel the tendons here. I'm going to turn my head to the right. When I do so, it's clear which one I'm using, right? I'm actually using the one on the left, which might seem surprising until we stop to think that this is the origin. So when the muscle shortens, it's going to pull this around this way. This muscle doesn't really have to do anything because it would be working the other way. So make sure you put the right muscle, correct muscle, I should say, according to which way the person's looking. So the scalenes are these little muscles here, kind of on the side. I usually put this one because it doesn't really show where it attaches. It's supposed to come down and attach to the first rib, but it really doesn't show it doing that, so it's kind of a little unfair. But anyway, so let's put it this way. We can see there's a big sternocleidomastoid here, and these three little muscles here, the anterior scalene is the most anterior of them. So there the scalenes are, and there's the anterior scalene. Then we have the masseter, which is the chewing muscle. So we've sort of got a salivary gland there too, but there's the chewing muscle of the masseter right on the corner of the jaw. We can see it. I'm not going to use this one for the actual practical, but you can probably see it rather bigger and chunkier here. So there's the tree, and you can feel it. If you clench your jaw, then you can feel it bulging right there. So those are those three pretty distinguishable ones. So hopefully, whichever one you get, as long as you can spell sternocleidomastoid vaguely and not just put SC, which doesn't quite count. A couple of vowels here and there that they aren't quite right or whatever. That's sort of okay. But as long as we get the general sense of it, we don't get every single letter right. That's it. If it just kind of starts with ST and trickles along, that's not going to work. Okay, so those are those, and then we go to the chest muscles. So we're talking about pectoralis, pectoral, the chest area. So the pectoralis major, pec muscle, so to speak, is this large muscle here. That's the one that attaches with this aponeurosis all the way along the sternum here. And then I've got the pectoralis minor. So on this side, the pectoralis major has been removed, and we can see the pectoralis minor underneath. So in the same sort of location, it doesn't really look like it's underneath. They look about the same level, but that's just artistic license. So this is the pectoralis minor with a few sort of lobes of the muscle, or whatever you call them, and then this is the pectoralis major here. So this one, again, I'm not going to use this one, but it's convenient to show that the pectoralis major does in fact lie over the pectoralis minor, and the pectoralis minor is in fact a lot smaller, as you see there. So that shows their relative positions. So the pectoralis major would be shown here on this particular one. So those are those. And then we go to the abdominal area, and so the abdominal area, the muscles are named for their direction primarily, the direction of the fibers. So the rectus abdominis is the fibers are going straight up and down. So that would be the six-pack abs, or more like an eight-pack really, but there's the central abdominal muscles of the rectus. And if you look closely at here, you can see that the fibers are all running straight up and down. So that would be that. Then we've got the oblique muscles, which are going to go in a diagonal. So there's actually two layers of them, one on top of the other, like so. And the external obliques are going to go like you're going to put your hand more in your front pocket or move down this way. So luckily, the model has been kind to us here. And we can see the fibers going this way, and you can sort of see them feathering a little bit over here as well. So there's a hint of telling us that's more exterior. If we look on this side, where the fibers are heading, sorry about your arm, where the fibers are heading more to your back pocket, so to speak, here the fibers are pushing that way. So the external oblique would have been here, and it's been removed. Now the internal oblique, and you really can see that there's no feathering at all over the top here if you look at the direction of those fibers and then you look here, whereas over here it looks like there is a bit. So that kind of helps you, you kind of can't quite remember which way they go. You can look and see, do they feather over or not, and that will help you. And then we've got the transverse abdominis, which is the innermost layer of all. And to save myself on doing all of these, I got another one. So if we look here on the inside, there was the outside with the external, the rectus abdominis here and the internal. Flip it over, I can see that these go dead straight across in this area. That's part of the rectus abdominis there. So they're going dead across in a transverse pattern. You can kind of see the layers of them. So if I was going to do that, I'd pretty much have to take this off and say, number one is this one here, or something like that, in order to be able to ask that realistically. Because I can't get to it otherwise if it's on it. So if it is like that, it's kind of good. Plus you can see the transverse direction. So let's think about the direction of the fibers related to what they're going to do. So the more straight up and down they're going, the more they're to do with, when the fibers contract, curving your spine. So the prime mover of curving the spine, flexing the vertebral column, is going to be the rectus abdominis. The more they're going this way, the more they're doing compressing the abdominal contents, so the prime mover would be the transverse. And then the oblique muscles, because they're at the diagonal, are doing a little bit of one and a little bit of the other, so they're kind of a supporting cause for the rectus abdominis and the transverse abdominis. So that's how the direction tells us also what the action is. How are we doing so far?
Does the transverse rotate us at all, or just compress?
So in order to rotate anything, well, first of all, you've got muscles more in your back that are doing that. But in order to rotate, you'd have to use more one side than the other. So the transverse abdominis is more about compressing the. So you go to lift something heavy and you get that. You're trying to get that leverage there, and like you're lifting a heavy weight. You should be, to show how isolated those movements really are. When you lift a heavy weight, you're definitely compressing your abdominal contents. But you're definitely not, if you're sensible, you're definitely not curving your back. So you're keeping your back really straight, but also getting that compression. So they're definitely isolatable actions, if you see what I mean. Any other questions? No? Nice. All right, so then we're going to look at the shoulder. So we've got the deltoid. So now I'm going to try to put this arm back on and do a little surgery here and see if we can work. I see those things. Okay, so the deltoid is the muscle here that looks triangular, like a delta of a river, the leopard delta in Greek. So deltoid just means triangular. So if we look up on there, we can see that the deltoid altogether, if I use the entire deltoid, I'm going to pull out like this. As it shortens, it's going to pull out like this and going to be the prime mover abduction. But if I just use the anterior part but not the posterior, then it's going to pull more in this direction. So it's going to be a prime mover of a flexion along with the pectoralis major to some extent. It does say prime mover on here for the pectoralis major, and I think in the new edition they kind of downgraded that to more of the synergies. But anyway, so both of those are fine as prime movers. If I want to go back, I use the posterior deltoid along with the latissimus dorsi, which we haven't quite got to, and that's going to pull back. So the deltoid features as a prime mover for several, depending on whether I'm using anterior, posterior, or the whole thing. So make sure that if you count it as a prime mover, you say whether it's anterior or posterior, or just the entire thing. And then if I use the pectoralis major and the latissimus dorsi together, but not the deltoid, then that would be the movement of pulling my arm in for adduction. So that just kind of explains that. So the position of the muscle is going to help determine which direction. You think a muscle in the front would pull forward and a muscle in the back would pull. Okay, so having said the deltoid, next we come to the rotator cuff. And the rotator cuff isn't really a muscle in itself, it's sort of a group of muscles. And the muscles are essentially surrounding the scapula, but they're anchored onto the scapula, but where their insertion comes is on the humerus. So they're going to be muscles for moving the arm around the shoulder and rotating, as the name rotator cuff suggests. So I'll just go through where they are. So spinatus refers to the spine of the scapula, this flange of the scapula here. It doesn't have to do with the backbone. So supraspinatus would be above that spine, and infraspinatus would be below, or at least a significant part of it below. Not this little part down here, but if I was going to ask for that to be number 5, if I wanted it, I'd put it clearly up underneath there so that you'd see that that was meant to be the infraspinatus.
And also the posterior view.
This is the posterior view, exactly, yes, the posterior view where that spine would be. Even though it doesn't seem like it is, because it's filled in with muscles, we actually have that big spine on the back. Because on the front here, that's where the ribs are coming. So then we've got two other muscles, the teres major and teres minor. So those are these two. And teres sort of means rounded or kind of cylindrical sausage shape kind of thing. So those are those two little muscles here. So the teres, they look about the same size. Unlike the pectoralis major and minor, where one's clearly bigger, they look kind of similar. This is actually the major because it extends a little bit further. So this lower one is the major here. The teres minor is the one that kind of sits in here alongside the infraspinatus. So teres minor and teres major. It looks like it goes a little further. And then on the back, we have the subscapularis. In other words, kind of underneath the scapula. So if you're looking, you'd have to kind of feel underneath some of the scapula. Pretty hard to do in order to feel the subscapularis. So that's there. It wouldn't include this because that's the supraspinatus. And it wouldn't include this part because that's the teres major. But anywhere in the middle, let's say I wanted to do that one, I'd just place it squarely in the middle and give you a fair shot at getting that one. Keep it in there. So it's only going to ask for identification in this quiz, no what does it move or anything like that. It's just going to ask name and enough. Then we have the levator scapulae, and for this, I really need that other little arm here that is attached to the palm. Because it doesn't show it on this. So the levator scapulae, there's a muscle that's named for what it does. It's going to lift or levitate the scapula. Let's see if I can get that this thing on. Okay, so then I need a muscle that's not on the scapula itself so much as its origin is going to touch on the scapula, and here it is. So it's touching right on the corner. It's not a very huge muscle here, but here it is. Coming down, just attaching to the corner of the scapula here, so that when it contracts, it's going to be able to lift the scapula up. So it would have to be something that's attached up here, and then coming down to the corner of the scapula so that it can shorten and lift it out. So this, make sure I got the right place. This is it. right here.
What is the name of that again?
That's the levator scapula. So, in other words, the muscle that's going to lift my scapula. So that's the end of shoulder. And then we're going to go to back, and I'm going to take the bottom two muscles first because they're in the same general area. So, below the levator scapula, I've got two muscles that are going to go from the scapula to the spine here. To the backbone, I should say, to the vertebrae rather than this one. So, one's bigger than the other. So if we look down, these are the rhomboid muscles. So when you get a massage between your shoulder blades, it feels so nice. This is the rhomboid minor, about half the size of the much bigger rhomboid major. So look at them here. There's the rhomboid minor, and this whole chunky guy here is the rhomboid major. So the minor is here, and this is the rhomboid major. So they're filling in that space that they're going from here to. All right. Then we've got three other little muscles here. We've got the latissimus dorsi, which is this muscle here. So it's attaching down to the lower back and coming underneath the arm here. So that's one of the muscles that's going to help pull the arm back for hyperextension, and it's covering up under the arm and give it this way too, up under the arm and down, so it's covering the lower back and attaching down in the lumbar region. So here it is coming. So it's quite a large amount of a muscle here coming up and under the arm. So this stuff here. So that's what pulling the arm back. And then we've got that trapezius muscle, which is covering most of the sort of upper part and attaching more of the thoracic region and even further up. So the trapezius muscle has kind of different regions. It's this part of it up in the neck here, and this part of it down, covering over the shoulder blades. And in this model, you can actually see from the way the fibers go, that it's got an upper, kind of a straight across middle area, and then a lower area down there. So upper, middle, lower. Can't quite see that distinction so well here. And to be, I don't really mind if you don't put upper, middle, or lower on that. Although I guess it really shows only upper or lower. So, just stick it right here. So I guess it would be the lower. So if I did that one, if number 6 was that one there, then there it would be, I'd put that kind of clearly in the upper part of the back, and if I wanted to look to some side, I'd stick it down in the lower part of the back so that you'd see that that's clear trapezius ends here, the latissimus dorsi coming in. So, and then we have what I would call the serratus anterior, I think is its more usual name, although it's called the serratus ventralis on the list. But serratus, you can put either one. Since he puts it that way, I find out with it. Serratus anterior, I think it's more generally would be called. And that's underneath here. So it's got kind of a serrated look, like a serrated knife. So it's along the ribs here, because it's going to attach to each rib, it's got kind of a serrated look. So don't confuse that with the pectoralis minor, which also attaches to different ribs and has a serrated look, but it's more up in the pectoral region. So here's the serratus anterior, is under here, kind of with its serrated knife edge looking, coming down there. So this part here, that's going to attach to several of the lower ribs there, whereas the pectoralis minor is. And then, any questions on those? Okay, so then we're going to go to the arm, the upper arm, and then we'll look at the lower. So the upper arm has three main muscles that we're going to look at. I'll put this guy down now. So we can use this one. So the upper arm, the biceps brachii, so again we need full names. We do have to say biceps brachii, even though people typically call it the biceps and the triceps. We need to put brachii in to show it's in the arm. And so it has a short head and a long head. Biceps implies that it has two heads, biceps. So, but which is the short head and which is the long head? A bit deceptive on here. This is actually the short head. The long head, it looks like it's shorter, but it's actually going to go a lot further. The short head is the one that's going up to that coracoid process on the scapula that we said last term had a muscle attaching to it. I can't remember if I actually mentioned the biceps. But anyway, so that's what's attaching up to there. So this long head, the lateral one, is the longer one that's actually got a way to go and attached to the top of the scapula up there. So its job then is, because it's on the front of the arm, its job is going to be to bend the arm. And it has a companion prime mover, the brachialis, which is here. So the brachialis attaches partway down the humerus. So we don't actually have a piece of bare bone because we have the deltoid covering over there. But if the deltoid has been removed, as it has in this case, then that kind of gives away that this is the brachialis and helps us identify. So I've got the biceps brachii, would have to know which head. And then I've got the triceps brachii, which is just straight in the arm. That has 3 heads, as its triceps suggests. And now we're going to have to know those. So I've got the lateral head, the long head, and the medial head. So, okay, so which is lateral? Well, this is the more lateral part. So this is the lateral head. The long head is the one that this time really does seem to, it's still going. So there's the long head, the middle part. And then the medial is the little mini medial here, which is the third part of it. So if we remember this is the medial, we can think to ourselves, okay, the lateral is on the other side, and the long head's going to be in the middle, neither medial nor lateral. So long, lateral, and medial. So those are those. So we'll pause again and just make sure people are fine before we delve into what is probably the most intimidating looking part, because they have some pretty long legs. So for the biceps brachii? No, for the triceps. Sorry, the long and the short, so it wouldn't have it. So, okay, so this would be lateral, right? Because so the brachialis is this part here. The brachialis is the most identifiable because it has this. It attaches partway down here. So you're going to see the brachialis, and that'll tell you anything more to the front is biceps, and anything more to the back is triceps. And then, since this is the more lateral part here, this will be the lateral head, this will be the medial head. So the medial is the most distinguishable. If you remember that's medial, then this side has to be lateral, and this is the long. Okay. So then, we've got all of these muscles in the forearm to look at, and I'm going to start with the arm kind of in handshake position. The left arm, but can still be in handshake position. So anything that's on the back of the forearm here, because of where it's placed, if those muscles contract, they're going to pull the wrist and the fingers into a more extended, or even in the wrist case, hyperextended position. So those are extensors. This side has the flexors. When they contract, they're going to flex the wrist, and in some cases, flex the fingers as well. So we're mostly talking about the wrist in most of these. But first of all, we have a muscle that kind of divides the two off. This is the brachioradialis. So, not to be confused with the brachialis, although it kind of lines up with it nicely. And it should be at the top if you're in a handshake position here. So the brachioradialis is actually, even though it's in the forearm mostly, it does attach up on here. And so that's the muscle that when you're flexing your elbow, you're primarily using these muscles here. And then when you give that last little bit, you can really feel it tense right here. You just, that last little torque bit there, that's what the brachialis is doing. And so that was, that's what the brachialis is doing. And so it's really not a muscle about moving the wrist specifically. So to move the wrist, the ones on this side are going to be extensors. So extensor carpi means they're going to be an extensor of the wrist, or a hyperextender. It goes further. So now, if it's radialis, it's going down to the thumb side. If it's ulnaris, it's going down to the pinky side, along the ulna, and along the radius, respectively. So, or actually, not the other way around. So remember that this is the brachioradialis, so I've got to go in from there, and this muscle here is the extensor that's on the back, carpi radialis, because it's going down and anchoring near the base of the thumb. It actually has a long and a short head with a longus and brevis, long and brief. So probably would put it, to avoid some confusion, I probably just going to put it on the long head here, so that you can see that that's the muscle that's going down. So that would be the extensor carpi radialis, longus. The other ones don't have longus and brevis, so they're a bit more convenient. Here's the extensor that's on the back, carpi ulnaris. Luckily, none of these is on there. We've got ones that are going to extend the fingers and so forth, but we won't have to look at those because those are the ones that it talks about. I'm going to skip over the next two and look at the underside here. So now I've got flexors. So the flexor carpi, or carpi radialis, is going to go along the radius to the thumb, and the flexor carpi ulnaris is going to go along to the pinky side here, along the ulna, which you can see a little bit up there. So these are flexors, radius and ulna. These are extensors, radius and ulna. So hopefully there's a certain logic to that, even though they're long names. There's some logic hopefully to that. In between these two, this time they do have one. This is the palmaris longus. So it's a long muscle that goes down and anchors into the palm. So unlike these two that seem to anchor right on the base there, this guy goes down and actually anchors into the palm itself. So that's this middle part that's going down here. So yes, it is listed, but luckily the name palmaris and the fact that it goes to the palm would make it somewhat recognizable. And these two outer ones are the ones that will go along the radius. So then, the supinator and the pronator. So supination and pronation is this. Supination means I'm going to swivel around this way and be able to hold the bowl of soup. And pronator means I'm going to tip the soup out and pour it out. So that means that the pronator is going to have to be, it's right here. And it's going to be more of a crosswise muscle rather than a muscle going all the way down to the end. Because when it shortens, it's going to pull this over. So then I need a muscle going the other way, which when it shortens would pull, that would be the supinator. So the pronator teres, notice it's shaped just like the teres major and the teres minor. So its full name is the pronator teres. So pulls the radius over this way. The supinator pulls the radius over that way. So where is it? Well, I'm going to have to take all this stuff apart just to show it. So here it is. So again, kind of a giveaway if I've got all of this stuff dismantled and I'm asking for this muscle here. Let's suppose this was it here. Then I pretty much stripped the arm down, so that would tell you that that's a supinator with a crosswise muscle. So I'll just do that. Probably not quite like that, but if I ever did, then you'd know what it was. Okay, so then we've got the two others I'm not really going to do. We've got the carpal tunnel is just this connective tissue here that forms kind of a sheath, and the palmar, the thenar eminence is just the ball of the thumb, basically. It has several muscles in it, and I think we've got enough complication just trying to remember what this is. You can spare you those last two. And there's a muscle, the ball of the thumb, I guess is fairly recognizable maybe, but that's probably good. If you can identify these muscles in the forearm, you're doing really nice. So that is it, and oh, I never heard you. Any questions?
This is multiple choice.
It is not multiple choice. It is just in your packet, there's a sheet saying muscle practical upper body.